Shadows creep around us, silent whispers call. In the dark we wander, lost within it all. My air is heavy, breaths that freeze the soul. Echoes in the distance, stories left untold. Whispers of the night, drawing near and tight. Secrets in the shadows, hidden from the light.
Hey there, true believers. You're back again with us on Monstrous. Tonight, we're going to have Jennifer Ayres on, and we're going to talk about her Bigfoot encounters. And Miss Jennifer, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Just dealing with living in the middle of a Bigfoot hunting ground.
Right. And we're gonna get into all that. And if you don't care, would you tell the folks a little bit about yourself? Just a little bit of a bio?
Sure. I'm actually from California. I was born in Florida, but my parents moved to California when we were real young, and my mom was, a model, and so she was looking to make it big in Hollywood. So they all moved out to California when we were very young, and so I grew up there, mostly Southern California. And I had been to Northern California a few times. So I've heard of a Bigfoot, but I always thought it was one Bigfoot or just one, walking around in Northern California. I did not know that they exist everywhere and there's more than one. So it's a big new realization to me. Let's put it that way.
Right. A lot of people start off believing, well, there's just this one big hairy thing that's walking around in California, or it ends up in Washington, or, it pops up here or there, kind of like the Loch Ness Monster, like they think there's just one.
Right.
Without taking into account, well, it's going to require a species. These things don't just kind of mysteriously pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then we get back into the historical part where, yeah, they're not just in California or Washington. They popped up in Alaska, Colorado, Canada, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, just about anywhere. They've actually had accounts of them.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, well, you can go ahead and tell us your full story as far as what happened and, the situation that you're in now, and give us as much detail as you possibly can.
Basically, I was in California and we were having to move locations. And so I was kind of fishing around online with my friends, seeing if anyone needed a roommate or had any land where I could go because I have 5 cats and a dog. I'm actually not like a cat lady, but I had rescued a cat, the place we lived in California, who had kittens, and I couldn't home them right away. So I had to move, and I was looking like, oh, I have to find a place, where I can go, because you can't rent an apartment or even a house with that many animals usually in California. So anyway, long story, I found my friend on Facebook, was just buying land in Oklahoma. And she was like, well, why don't you just come out here? You can, we'll just land share out here. You can come out here with me and it'll work out, because I don't want to be alone either, And so she had separated from her husband, and I was needing a place to move. And I had a fiance, in California. He's still there, actually. He's older than me, so he's had a little hang up with like actually being able to move. And he's decided, California is real convenient for him right now because he's got his medical insurance there. And most people don't know, medical insurance can vary from state to state drastically, as I found out recently too. But so he's comfortable there. So basically, I moved out to Oklahoma, just me and my dog and 5 cats. And I'm just a 51-year-old lady who people usually think I'm in my 30s. So I'm a little lady, like 5'2", little chubby, but not a big woman to be moving into an area where there might be Bigfoots, right? I mean, you might feel a little more comfortable if you're like 5'8", 5'9" or something. But I'm just a little lady, and my friend here, she moved here a couple months before I got here. And so, I was trying to get all my affairs together so I could make it out here. And, she was like, hurry, I'm out here by myself. I need, I don't want to be out here very much alone. And she actually had a gate installed on this property. There was no gate before. So she was, feeling really nervous being out here alone. So I just quickly, made the arrangements as fast as I could so she didn't have to be out here by herself. And so we moved in December of 2023. And when we first got here, of course, it was winter time. So it's really cold outside in Oklahoma. It does get below freezing. It doesn't do it for long, though. It was only, maybe a couple weeks, I think, of a deep freeze. Other than that, it would hover around 32, go a little bit low, a little bit high, but not too bad. But during those months when I first moved here, of course, being that cold, we're pretty much staying inside. And I had my window covered because of keeping the heat in, with our heaters going and everything. I would have my windows covered up and just trying to stay cozy for the winter. Well, anyway, we didn't realize that anything was going on outside because we're both, mostly staying inside and staying cozy. Well, when springtime rolled around, I started taking the window coverings off, of course. And I'm the type of person, being from sunny Southern California, I love the sun and the breeze, the nice weather and everything. So as the weather warmed up in the spring, I started taking everything off and opening my windows. And at night, I used to love to sleep with the window open, just the screen on there. And one night I had been going to sleep and I woke up in the middle of the night. One of the scariest nights of my whole life, let me tell you. It's the things you never realize exist. It's like walking into a horror movie or something. You don't even know this stuff exists, so you don't even know what it is. Well, anyway, I'm sleeping and I wake up and there's something sniffing outside of my window. And I'm in a large RV. My RV is 29, 30 feet. And I mean, it's 7, 8, 9 feet probably to the window. I'm not sure. I mean, I have to measure it. I think it's more 7, but the top part is 10. So it's between 7 and 10 feet is where the window is. Well, so anyway, I hear something sniffing in my window. And I look outside and I don't see anything, but it's very dark outside. My friend likes it to be dark and not real lit up. She doesn't want to attract human attention to the area. So we didn't have a lot of lights at that time. Well, I couldn't find it and I still heard it. And then I heard some kind of snorting noise, like a really strong, big animal snorting outside along with this weird sniffing. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. This must be a bear or something, and this area is not really known for bear. We can get a black bear every now and then, but if you ask anybody, it's usually very uncommon. It's not something you're normally going to, run into, black bears or mountain lions. Even though they do roam these mountains, they don't really have much reason to come that close to humans because they're, up in the mountains. They got all their food up there and it's dangerous down here. But anyway, I knew that I should still try to identify what it was. So I grabbed my floodlight. I have this Ryobi 1 floodlight, the ones that use the batteries and whatever. and it's very bright. I mean, when you light the outside up, it lights up like the daytime. So I got my floodlight and I'm looking outside and I can't find anything. And I'm looking, to the right and to the left, and I hear a noise like something is messing with my friend's extra trailer. And I'm looking right at her trailer. I cannot see anything touching it, but I can hear something touching it. It was like so kind of creepy, and I was like, okay, this is weird. I think I'll just go back to bed then because I can't find it. I'm not going to go outside looking for it, as long as it's not like rocking my RV or like destroying things. I'm just going to go back to bed. So I did. And at that time, I was really comfortable, with God and everything. And I'm like, I trust God. There's nothing going to happen. I'm just going to go to bed. We'll just deal with it tomorrow, right? So anyway, I rolled over and I went to sleep. But then I was thinking, just in case something happens, I better tell somebody, and my friend's asleep and I didn't want to wake her up. So I went to Facebook looking for some emotional support too. I wanted someone to know what I heard, but I also wanted someone to just reassure me everything was okay. So I go onto Facebook and of course I'm telling, them that, hey, listen, I just heard something sniffing outside my window. And then I remembered back to the morning and there was some weird things going on during the daytime too, but I hadn't connected the dots yet. But once I was on Facebook, I started thinking like, wow, this is really weird because I did hear noises this morning too. Like something was like growling, like or talking and grunting over by our little river area that dumps into our pond. But I didn't think anything of it until I started like trying to write it out on Facebook, And so when I was writing it out, I was like, you know what? This is really weird because it's almost like this place is haunted or something. Like I heard weird stuff in the river. Now I hear something sniffing outside and I can't find it. I can't see it with my eyes. And so I posted a post like that and went to bed. And then in the morning, of course, I woke up and I was going to go check my Facebook and just see, what anyone said about it. Well, anyway, one of my friends actually was from this area and I didn't know it, but he knew where I was and he was like, oh yeah, that's normal for that area. You guys have Bigfoots. And I'm like, what? Like, what's a Bigfoot? So he starts explaining it to me and I'm like, wow, okay, I trust you. I mean, you say you're from here and that you know about these noises and whatever. Okay, I'll research that. So that's exactly what I did. I'm actually a person that will go research anything for, a long, long time until I totally understand it. So I'm jumping on YouTube. I'm watching every video I can find on Bigfoot. I didn't even know like Bigfoot was like this big topic. Like I didn't know there was so many channels. It was incredible. So I found a lot of those storytelling channels that were really nice. I was like, wow, these are enjoyable stories too, because they're kind of like, laid back and you just kind of, like you feel like you can just get your hot cup of chocolate and sit down and just listen to the stories. So I was watching, I was listening to all those, and a lot of those were, making it sound like it was a friendly creature and, not too big of a problem. And some people were feeding them. And I started even asking people on my Facebook, about, well, do you feed them? What do you do? And I even considered it too at that time. And I know on your Facebook, that was one of the things you were talking about, is how people have like little controversy on whether to feed them or not feed them. That's how I kind of found more details on that topic, because at first I wanted to. I mean, I'm a cat, cat, dog, chicken person, I basically feed everything. So I'm the type of person that would feed them. But anyway, so people were talking about that. And so I got into really researching all about the Bigfoots. Well, I got a lot of information in a few days. And within a couple of days, it probably wasn't even a week since I found out what I probably heard. I started hearing wood knocks outside. And, I'm in my RV looking out the window. My friend had gone into town, like to go to the store. And so I was here alone just with my pets. And I'm looking out the window and I'm hearing all these wood knocks. And I'm like, okay, I was just hearing about that on YouTube. Someone was talking about how they make wood knocks, and now I'm hearing it outside. So I'm like, oh no, this is happening. This is really happening. Well, I was kind of shocked, so I didn't even like bother to film it or video, tape it. And I was just looking out the window, and it went on so long that I literally like stopped watching. Even I just went back on my phone and just kind of kept one eye out the window just in case anything showed, because I couldn't find anything making the noise. Well, anyway, some time passed and I kind of forgot about it. My friend came home, and so I decided, okay, she's home now, it's safe to go outside. So I get my dog ready and we're going outside. Well, I jump out the door, and all of a sudden I hear this like crunch, like this huge tree break. But at that time, like, I've heard of them, but I never heard one of them in my backyard. So I heard it, but I didn't still connect the dots. Like, I guess I was kind of maybe in a little bit of denial, I guess you would call it, because it didn't freak me out, but I also didn't like immediately assume it was Bigfoot. I thought maybe a neighbor was like taking down a tree. We don't have direct neighbors. We have like a little venue that's next door connected to a bar. So they do like little concerts or little get-togethers back there, but no one lives there full time. So I knew it was strange to hear a tree break over there. But I just thought, well, maybe they're taking a tree down. But I noted that it was kind of weird because there was no machine noise. I didn't hear any, chainsaw. I didn't hear any people. I just heard a big tree crash sound. And so I was glad my friend was home and she got home. Just kind of noted it in the back of my mind, didn't think much of it. And so time went on, and we went on with life. We're just doing everything, that we need to do. And then one night I was walking back from walking my dog. And as I approached my RV, I started to hear another tree breaking. And I was like, okay, this is something. This is not a person. And I look up and my dog looks up too. I mean, this is like little girl, 5'2", walking with her dog, looking up at like a 50-foot pine tree. And I see this massive like tree start falling to the ground. And I just panicked. I mean, honestly, it was too much. And I'm like, hurry, let's go. So I'm grabbing my dog. I'm watching a tree fall, and, with my own eyes. And I'm running for our RV, not like running like prey. You never want to run like prey animal. Like you don't want to attract them to chase you. But, I'm walking as fast as humanly possible, looking calm. And so we're booking it to the RV. Of course, it's locked. I got to unlock it. I'm trying to get in, as quickly as possible, just so we don't have to see anything yet. I was pretty certain what I was dealing with then. I mean, by that time, I'm like, this is a Bigfoot because no person can do that. Something is pulling that big branch down, So anyway, we get in our RV and I kind of like started calming down a little bit. By that time, I had already spoken a little bit to some Bigfoot experts that are in our area. And so I got on the phone to them and I was like, okay, there's a big Bigfoot coming in right now. I'm like, I need emotional support, So I'm like, there's a big Bigfoot coming in right now. And so they're asking me questions. I'm telling them what's going on. I'm watching out the window, but we're safe inside. I called my neighbor, my friend that owns the land. I called her and I said, don't go outside. I just heard this. I'm positive it's a Bigfoot. And so she's like, okay, I'll just stay in for the night. And so it was really, really, really stressful. Even my dog was stressed out. I mean, people don't realize, but putting you kind of in a shock where you're not sure what you're dealing with, or you're like wanting to be ignorant. You don't want to accept the fact that there's a Bigfoot over there. But your animals don't lie. The animal will tell you, like your dog, if your dog runs in the opposite direction, you're dealing with something that's a big predator, because normally they want to chase, whatever is over there. So my dog always reacts to the Bigfoot like run the other way. I'm going to go under the RV or trying to scurry into the RV. Like he definitely like lets me know what we're dealing with. So anyway, we were safe that night, but I did talk to, the Bigfoot experts I met here. Anyway, that night we got some sleep. Of course, by this time I've already been advised to cover our windows and everything. And so we kind of, in the shock of it all, you kind of just have to get back to real life and just try to ignore it. It's very difficult, I'll have to say. It was very trying to try to be able to get some rest in that situation. So getting back to your topic, yes, we moved into a Bigfoot hunting ground, but we didn't know it. And we were just finding out. We were just finding out at this point. Really, my main thing is to be safe, because we did move into this hunting ground for sure. Like there is no question about it. We're in a Bigfoot hunting ground because there's hunting blinds that they put up around us. And I've also had Brian, I think his last name is Brian Huron. He's from the Southern Bigfoot Alliance group. They're on Facebook too. And he was actually recommended by the sheriff department, if you believe it. My situation actually went all the way up to the sheriff department. And the reason that it did, I haven't even gotten to that part. The reason that it went to the sheriff department was because in the middle of all this, I started like wanting to look outside at night to see what was going on at night, because I could hear things happening, but I didn't know enough about Bigfoots to, know exactly what it was. And so in the middle of all this, like I would be putting lights up because that's what the experts had recommended, put lights up, put more lights around your house, put up trail cameras and all this stuff. I actually have a trail camera ordered right now. But I was putting lights up, and I put my floodlight in the window, just to put enough light on the property to try to keep the Bigfoot away from the house, basically. Mm-hmm. And so I was doing all that stuff. Well, anyway, I would get curious, and I'm sitting here, nothing to do. I'm like, you know what? Why don't I look out the window? But okay, so anyway, so we go into me. I was starting to want to look out the window because of what I was hearing outside. And I had my floodlights on and my lights, lighting up the pond, because my RV sits about 20 feet from a pond area. And so I was looking outside, and I was trying to even record on my phone. Well, something's wrong with my cell phone, like camera. So I says, well, I'm just going to live stream to Facebook. I'd never done it before. I never was a big live streamer. I mean, this is all new to me, but I figured out that if you live stream to Facebook, you could just download it later. Mm-hmm. And so that way I don't have to have it all stored on my cell phone. So I started doing that. I was like, I'm just going to live stream it, even though I'm not really interested in like getting people to watch it. I just wanted to record it. So anyway, I'm looking out the window, and wouldn't you know it, I see like little lights in the pond. Like, I'm like, what is that? And I'm looking, and there's a light, like these eyes are lit up in the pond area. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I started like moving my light around. Like I would take my floodlight and I was like flashing it back and forth. Well, when I did that, it upset what was in the pond and they started moving around. Oh, so creepy. So they're moving around in the pond, like the eyes shine. And I had someone watching and they're like, oh, maybe it's raccoons. And I'm like, no, it's not raccoons. Look at the eyes. The eyes are like a foot apart. And, I'm about maybe the pond is like 20, 30 feet away from my window, but I'm looking and filming across the pond, which is another 20, 30 feet. And even from that distance, I could tell the eyes were so far apart. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this before, but when you see something that you don't recognize, your brain starts trying to match it up. I'm like, raccoons? No, it's not raccoons. Bear? No, bears don't live in the pond. Like, why would a whole bunch of bears be swimming in the pond in the middle of the night, And then I'm like, deer? No, deer don't do that. Your brain starts going through all this stuff, like what it could be. And it came up with nothing. And I'm staring at it, like real fast. I was like, those are Bigfoot. It's got to be Bigfoots. It has to be Bigfoots because I can't match it up. I don't know what it is. So anyway, I'm filming it and I'm seeing these eyes and I'm flashing my light back and forth. And then all of a sudden, it's like, I'm getting the chills just remembering. It walks out of the pond. On 2 feet. So I'm watching these things swim in the pond and then walk out on 2 feet. And it's all being live streamed. This was all on Facebook. And it's very dark, so you can't like make out the whole animal. Like you couldn't tell like where the arm was or where the leg was, but I could make out the silhouette of the head and the eyes. So I was making this out and realizing like, you kind of go into shock. Like there's something coming out of my pond that's walking. Okay. It's like the movie Predator. And I'm like, okay, this is really happening. I'm like kind of a little bit in shock, but it's happening. And so I kind of, I was kind of getting a little freaked out myself. I mean, I kept saying, on the video even like, okay, I'm going to shut this off because I don't want to make them mad. I was totally panicking. I mean, totally panicking. Like every couple minutes I was saying I was going to shut it off, but I couldn't shut it off because I'm looking at something I've never seen before in my life. So I keep saying, I'm going to shut it off. And then I'd keep filming. It was so funny. I mean, I laugh about it now, but at that time, it was like, I didn't know what to do. I just didn't want them to get like angry with me and then come after me or something, So anyway, so that night, that was the first night where I really like kind of, went through the shock of actually seeing it and like actually seeing it walk out of the water. And I'm looking out there right now. I'm like, I'm gonna look outside right now. I don't see anything right now. But anyway, so that was like the very first time I actually saw something. That up to that point, all I've been doing is hearing tree knocks and I've been hearing the tree breaks, and the sniffing and the snorting, but I never actually physically saw anything. So that was the first night that I really saw something. And that was one of the things that really drove home the point, like, okay, no, this is real, this is really happening. And so then I got into the habit of like wanting to look out the window, and of course my friends were telling me like, no, don't look out the window. Do not look out the window. Like stay hidden. Don't react to them. Don't make any noises. Like basically what I found out later was these were all instructions like people that live in the Appalachian Mountains follow. I hope I'm saying that right. Appalachian Mountains.
The Appalachians.
Appalachian. Yeah. This is all new to me. I'd never heard of this before.
You're good.
I had never heard of it. So I'm just like learning. And a lot of these things I don't even know how to pronounce. So anyway, these are things that I learned, from my friends. That was the same. They says, don't look outside, cover your windows, and if you see something, you didn't really see it because you never want to make them upset with you, I guess, and sometimes they may get upset if they catch you filming them, I guess. There's some accounts of that. I have not experienced that myself, but just to be safe, I usually try to make sure they don't know I'm filming them. One night, I can tell you, I had been peeking around the blinds, and I saw a cyclops. I saw a walking cryptid with one eye, and
Oh my.
yeah, it's really it creeps me out just talking about it.
We're gonna have to circle back to that in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and I got pictures of it, and I did post them, and basically, it was walking around the opposite side of the pond, and it did get upset when it like saw me move the light, because it started walking towards me. So I shut it off real quick, closed the blinds, and just quit for the night. I was like, that's enough. That's enough for tonight. Seeing the one-eyed creature is enough, probably for my whole life, but for that night, it was it. So, yeah. So basically, we got a lot of stuff going on, and this is ongoing. Like today, even I stepped out, and my friend was out doing her, chores and fixing her RV battery and stuff. And I walk outside, and I hear stuff going on across the pond, and I'm like, I hope everything's okay out there. And then she went inside, so it was okay. But yeah, so it's been quite the journey, going from California to Oklahoma, Bigfoot territory. And we have been confirmed as a hunting ground. Even the gentleman that came from the Southern Bigfoot Alliance, he came out here with his buddies, recommended by the sheriff. Oh, I didn't tell you why the sheriff was called. I ended up having to get the sheriff involved because I had vandalism of my chicken coop, but it was a Bigfoot issue. Even the sheriff confirmed they thought it was Bigfoot issue too. In fact, the sheriff that came out here was a lady, and she was like telling me about Bigfoot. I was like, oh, this is informational. Like, she was telling me about it, and she definitely thought it was. And that night we had my chicken coop drawer. I don't know if you know, like those little chicken coops they sell like on Amazon or something. I think I got this one from probably Walmart, but they're just like $200 kit where you put it all together yourself, and it has like a little drawer that you can take in and out to clean it.
Right.
Well, they had pushed it in, like the little drawer got pushed in one night, like shoved in all the way. And so when I was outside, I noticed the drawer was shoved in, and my chickens were at the bottom, and there was tons of feathers all over the place. And I was like, oh my gosh, someone tried to break in the chicken coop. And I was like, that can't be a raccoon. A raccoon can't push that drawer in. It's not a bear. There's no other marks. It's not a coyote. There's no digging marks. There was nothing but the drawer pushed in, and the things around the coop were like strategically moved. And I don't even think a human being could push that drawer in, but also there'd be no reason for a human. If a human was going to steal a chicken, they wouldn't have failed. They would have gotten them. They would have just clipped the padlocks right off and just opened the door. So I definitely was thinking it was not a human, but I wanted the sheriff to at least take a report, because I want them to know what's going on out here, because we're having like so much weird stuff. I wanted to not be alone in this. I wanted people to know in case something happened to us, like they would know what happened. I don't know if people have not been in that situation before, they may not understand. Like, it's really scary to have nobody know what happened to you. Like, if you're like afraid for your life or something. So anyway, I wanted to let them know, like, stuff's going on out here, and my chicken coop had gotten like vandalized. And so they came out, they did a report, and the lady started telling me about Bigfoot and like signs to show and to look for or wherever. And that same night, my friend got a cracked windshield. So it was really weird because she's like, yeah, my windshield was not cracked when I went to bed last night. And I'm like, really? Yeah. And so I was like, that's interesting because we know Bigfoots throw rocks, and so the sheriff actually said that. She's like, yeah, Bigfoots throw rocks, so that's kind of normal. And, she just basically said, have a nice day. But then once I got, filming these pond creatures, let's call them, they're cryptids. I'll tell you. I definitely, personally, my opinion, my identification of this creature, if whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it. I'm not an expert in the field, but to me, it's a cryptid. They are like living right on the shoreline closest to my RV. So, and these creatures eat meat. Okay, I got a picture of them right after they caught a deer because we have deer on this property.
Mhm.
So it's kind of creepy. And I have a big dog. And now I just make it a habit. I never go out without my dog. I always have my dog, and I always have my machete, and I always have my dagger with me for protection. I originally got a dagger for protection from the gangs in California, but like here I'm like, oh, this will come in handy for this too. But anyway, so yeah, they live like right on the shoreline. So I got really nervous one night. I had been filming, and I saw so much eye shine right on the surface of the pond, right out front, right out in front of my door.
Mhm.
And we're talking like big eyes, small eyes, a bunch of eyes, not just one creature. I mean, we're talking like a whole unit, like family unit or whatever you want to call it. Sitting out there with their eye shine, like just glowing right back at me. So I says, I have to tell the sheriff. So I actually went to the Facebook group, the sheriff page. They probably think I'm crazy, but they know it's real. They know it's true. They just can't do anything about it because I don't know if you know, but law enforcement, they can't really do anything about Bigfoots. But anyway, so I go on the sheriff and it says, I'm just a girl out here with my 5 cats and my dog, and I kind of need help with this. I can't really handle this by myself, I'm from California. I don't even like have a big shotgun, although maybe that'll change after next week. I don't know. But, I don't have the weapons or anything to deal with something like that. So anyway, I got them involved, and that's how Brian got involved because they recommended him from the Southern Bigfoot Alliance just to come take a look and kind of help us deter them from the property. So he came out with his buddies, and they walked around and definitely saw some stuff. And so they ended up putting up some motion sensor lights in the trees, which was really nice of them. I just can't thank him enough because, I'm not comfortable climbing a big ladder or anything. So I was really grateful that they came out and they put them in the trees and everything. And so that hopefully will help. And then I now have a trail camera coming too, just to put on my front door. I just want them to stay away from my front door because we have had some gifting activity, not on my behalf, but I'm getting gifts from Bigfoot.
Mhm.
Like, oh,
Yep, that happens.
yeah. So I'm getting a gift. What's interesting is I pay attention to every detail because I'm a researcher too. So no detail passes by me. Like if I can help it, I'm gonna research it. So I had been talking to my friend outside the other day before the gifting, and we had been talking, and she goes, you have a really weird mushroom growing over there. There was a mushroom inside my electric fence. I have a little electric fence, to keep the raccoons away from the chickens and all that. Well, anyway, so I go, yeah, I don't pick the mushrooms. I just leave them just in case Bigfoot eats them. Because I'd seen that one video, with that guy who's picking mushrooms that gets screamed at.
Oh, just to let you in on a little something.
Yeah.
That is a complete hoax. I actually know the guy
Oh,
made
okay.
the sound. The Bigfoot sound was actually made by the host of what is his show? It used to be Bigfoot Outlaws,
Uh-huh.
and now it is I can't think of it. His name is Matt Knapp. Matthew Knapp.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
he's the one who made that sound. He actually has an episode where he talked about how that guy made that hoax. And
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so that's all fake.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so and that stuff, I assume like it could be a joke, but I joke around too. So I was like, no, I just leave them there just in case Bigfoot eats them. I'm not actually trying to like feed Bigfoot, you know what I mean? Like I don't
Mhm.
want to do that. Um, but I just was joking around with her, I just leave them. And I do just leave the mushrooms. I don't pick them because there are animals out there that eat them. And I don't trust myself to like identify them. I don't have enough time, honestly, with 5 cats and a dog. Who has time to go identify mushrooms, right? So I just leave them. Well, anyway, after that conversation, it was so weird because I walk out my door the next day, I think it was even, and there's a mushroom sitting on my pathway. And what's so strange is it's not a new mushroom. It is an old moldy mushroom and it's dry. So someone came and left a dry, moldy mushroom on my door, like walkway. And I'm thinking, okay, unless it's like some person that's like eavesdropping on us, it has to be Bigfoot because who else would it be? Like, this is weird. Like, and I have a big dog. I have a dog that would scare the bejesus out of anybody, and he will bark if a human comes up, and he's not alerting, so I don't think a human did it. So I'm making a little bit of an assumption, but I think it's a safe assumption that Bigfoot left it. And I'm like, okay, I don't need your mushrooms, thanks. But that was something funny that happened, and I'm like, okay, kind of strange, I don't know. And I really don't want them coming that close. That's why I'm getting some trail cameras because I don't feel comfortable having a predator that close to me. It'd be like letting a bear come up to my house. Like I still would stay inside, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to
Yeah,
jump out with a bear, so I'm not going to jump out with a Bigfoot either.
right.
So
That's true.
yeah. So I just kind of like keep your distance. I'm good over here. You stay over there, kind of thing. But yeah, so a lot of stuff's going on, and it's still not over. Even after we had our friends come over and they were helping us take down some of the tree branches and clear the area a little bit of hiding places. We still got a huge tree trunk drug into the property from somewhere at night. It couldn't be during the day because we're here. I'm here all the time. I'm actually disabled, so I'm always home. And a big tree trunk upside down showed up one day, and it's just like placed against another tree. It's the weirdest thing because it's like, I don't even want to call it a branch. It's actually a trunk, like a tree trunk. Like it's like someone broke down a tree at the very bottom and drug it in here. And so we're dealing with that right now. I was taking down some parts, but the big part, we're going to have to pull it down with like a truck or a tractor. That's how big it is. It's so big that us ladies aren't going to be able to pull it down, without maybe getting crushed or something. So we're dealing with that now. And of course, we still don't have any proof of how it got here, but I'm looking at it going, I don't think a person brought it in here. Definitely not one person, that's for sure. So,
Okay. Well, hey, interesting stuff. I've got some questions for you.
sure.
Okay, so let's start off with the chickens. What happened with the chicken? This isn't actually a question. This is more of a
Yeah.
comment. What happened with the chickens and the chicken pen? That is actually super common where we're looking at with Sasquatch. There have
Yeah.
actually been a couple of cases where the Sasquatch was referred to and named the Chicken Man
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was so commonly coming in and eating chickens from out of pens.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. So you referred to them as cryptids. I'm a cryptozoologist by trade. Um, I'm just wondering why you referred to them as cryptids. What are you defining them as cryptids? Why do you call them that?
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, if you ever want to come actually meet some that are always in the same spot, you're welcome here. I will invite you to come here and you can meet these guys. I'm not sure you want to because they look like they're pretty dangerous, but that offer's always open. I'm actually trying to find because I'm a compassionate person. Even if I don't like something, I still don't want harm to come to it unless need be. I actually want to find a home for these guys. I feel kind of bad for them because they're stuck in our pond, and I feel like the Bigfoots are going to eventually eat them too because they're smaller.
Okay. So you're saying that these things are different than Sasquatch, these cryptids?
Well, my opinion, and this is just from my research and analysis, is that the cryptids are related to each other. They're not a separate creature. They're a creature that can absorb the DNA of what it eats. And so when I'm looking at like a Bigfoot versus a dogman, I think I'm looking at cryptids. Both the Bigfoot and the dogman are cryptids, but the dogman is from Bigfoot eating too many dogs and having a offspring that is dog-like from eating too many dogs, if that makes any sense. So when I'm looking at a cryptid, my definition of a cryptid is a creature that's not documented. It's not actually recorded in a science book. Okay. So it's a creature we know exists, but it's not recorded in a science book. But also my research has led me to believe that they are not actually a species. So you couldn't record one as like, this is this species, and every time this species gives birth, it'll keep creating the same species. I don't believe that is the case. Just off looking at the pond creatures, even it looks like the mother looks like almost an alien, and it's a very scary looking alien. I actually had someone say that it looked like a devil or a demon. But I wouldn't even know what a demon looks like, only through pictures.
Could you describe what it looks like, Jennifer?
Yes, it looks like an alien head. It looks like a cross between a frog, an alien, and a Bigfoot, like the hairy blackness of a Bigfoot, like a black spider. How black a black spider is with the fur, like the fuzzy looking thing. That's what it looks like. It looks like a black spider, but it has a head with the eyebrow, kind of like you see in E.T. Remember E.T., the movie E.T.?
Yeah.
Where it has like a big brow and they like big eyes behind it. That's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of like an ET, but totally black. And
oh, go ahead. Before I talk, go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
That's okay. And so when it walked out of the water, my guess from like my distance that I am to the shoreline is that the female was about 4 to 5 feet tall and standing completely erect, straight up. So the female was like 4 or 5 feet tall. The little ones with her, her offspring was probably maybe a foot tall. And they were circling around her legs. Like you could see it in the video, like the little eyes were circling around. So she's got offspring in there. And yeah, so they basically, but what caught my eye though is too when I looked at the picture closer, I saw some of the other offspring, and it looks like like baby dogmen, and so I really am wondering, like, it to me it looks like mixed DNA. You know how like they have pictures of cryptids throughout history. Like if you look back and you look at pictures of cryptids, they always have mixed body parts. Like they'll have chicken feet, but they'll have ram horns, or they'll have wings from an eagle. They're always mixed. They always have like a mix of DNA, even throughout history.
We call a chimera.
Yeah, like a I call it cryptid. I was under the impression a chimera was the one with 2 faces, but I'm not sure on that. Maybe I'm just thinking of cats.
No, when you're talking about the chimera, generally, if you get into Greek mythology, you're talking about the one that's part goat, part eagle, part scorpion, part
Oh,
ram, part
okay.
something or another. But whenever we're looking at it in a biological sense, my background is in biology, ecology, and evolution. When you look at it in a biological sense, you're talking about something that has more than one type of DNA. Once you get out of human beings, you can have human beings that are chimeras too, but that
Yeah.
essentially has to do with a person who has the DNA of two separate embryos put together.
Oh,
But
okay.
if you're talking about biological chimeras, I mean, that's something that we're really just on the verge of even basically trying to understand because we're looking at stuff like CRISPR and other things like that. But that will not explain these things that have been around through history. So
Right.
typically, when we look at the definition of cryptids, like I said, I've been a cryptozoologist for well over 20 years. A cryptid is defined as any animal, or well, cryptid actually means a hidden animal.
Right.
So in cryptozoology, it's the study of animals that either are believed to have been or gone extinct, or animals that have never been proven by science. Now,
Uh-huh.
there's people believe that they see these other, these different things, but it requires scientific proof to put them into the zoology category because that's what cryptozoology is. It's simply zoology, but it has to do with animals that haven't been proven as of yet.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So cryptid, I mean, it's an interesting term, and what you're talking about has actually popped up quite recently a couple of times in some discussions I've had with some other cryptozoologists, as far as us trying to understand why, because we get to start to talk about phenotype and other genetic things. So one of it is how the genetics presents itself, how you see it. So it might appear to be somewhat like, we'll take Dogman, for instance. We had a discussion not too long ago about Dogman where we were talking about phenotype and genotype. Genotype is really not something that you can see. It's more it's more the gene itself. The phenotype is the expression of the gene. So you may have something that is purely canine, but it starts to present itself as looking maybe more felid or more like a cat. It
Uh-huh.
has to do with the evolution of the animal and how maybe it's become more adapted to water, maybe it's become more adapted to climbing trees and things like that. So, but it's an interesting theory, and it's just really funny that it popped up where you were talking about cryptids as far as they hold on to the DNA of whatever they eat.
Yeah.
That's we've actually discussed that quite recently. Me and another couple of cryptozoologists have been talking about that as an interesting hypothesis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so let me ask about those tree breaks, those two tree breaks that you talked about way back at the beginning. Did those happen in
Yeah.
the daytime or at the night in nighttime?
Yeah, they happened just before twilight. And I
Okay.
didn't really digest the information about not being outside at twilight yet. When you're learning something new, you pick up certain pieces, but you don't put it all together at the same time. And so I was still going out walking my dog. But then that happened. I also make sure you're sitting down. Well, you're probably used to this, but to me, it's shocking. Um, I've also I've also been howled at by a dogman or werewolf. I don't know which because I did not see it. I only heard it.
That would be a dog man.
And it was so loud
Right.
and so long and so clear. Like I had gone out again, it was around twilight time. And, I don't know if people realize this, but a lot of times I've noticed that when I hear that type of activity happening, like the weather will start changing too. Like sometimes the weather and the sky all feels weird. It's almost supernatural. And I don't even know if you're a supernatural guy or if you're just flesh and blood guy. I know there's like
Oh,
different.
I'm definitely both. I mean,
You're both okay.
as far as cryptozoology goes. I mean, I don't know if you've listened to any of our other episodes or anything like that,
A bit.
but whenever we talk about cryptozoology, I'm old school as far as flesh and blood, as far as when I started out. Now I've
Yeah.
branched out since then, and I've always had paranormal experiences my entire life.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to start to curve a little bit because we're starting to talk a little bit more about understanding reality and how
Yes.
we don't actually understand reality, how there's
Right.
much of reality that we're closed off to that we have to learn to be more open to so that we can understand it.
Yes. Okay, good. I'm glad that you have an open mind. That's exactly how I am too.
Oh
I
yeah,
try to
yeah.
I try to accept everything and then compare it to reality, instead of discrediting a lot of things and then having to go backwards and redo what I believe. I go the opposite. Now I'm like, okay, I accept what you're saying. However, I'm going to test it against reality before I decide to believe it, So, yeah, that's one of the things that I've noticed with these experiences with the tree breaks and now like the howling. In fact, my friend who owns this land, she heard bunches of coyotes running last night, and I, was warning her. I was like, it was far off, right? And she's like, yeah, it was really far off. And I was like, oh, good, because a lot of times what we think are coyotes or what we think is normal activity out there. It could be Bigfoot and Bigfoots, I should say, and dogmen running. And even Bigfoots themselves can make mimicking noises that sound like coyotes. So a lot of times what you think you hear is not what you hear, but there is a way to tell what it is. I've learned. And I learned the hard way. We actually had a bunch of coyotes running into the property at the very beginning, but I started noticing there was something wrong with the howling. The howling turned into a growl, and it turned into like a like a really deep growl that came from an animal that could not have come from a coyote. But up until that very end noise, it sounded just like coyotes. It did until the very end, and then it would scare the bejesus out of you because it was so deep, and you were like, "That is not a coyote, and I don't know what that is. I'm going back to bed." But anyway, so going back to the dog man, you're saying dog man. I kind of say werewolf or dog man because I don't really know. I don't know what it is, but I almost think like Hollywood put things in such a way where I think we would think it was the same thing anyway. Now I'm understanding maybe one has a tail and one doesn't, but I didn't see it. I just heard it.
There's a podcaster out there, I'm not going to say his name, who started that whole thing, and that is a lot of misinformation too. As far as the whole werewolf thing, I mean, I'm a folklorist as well. Ryan, who I work with a lot, he's a folklorist, and we really were really puzzled as to why people, supposed researchers, definitely YouTubers, have started bringing up this whole werewolf thing. And we really think it's for the hits on their channel or whatever, because as soon as you say werewolf, people are like, oh, werewolf, and it has nothing to do with dogmen, because the whole story behind the werewolf is nothing like the story of the dogman. Is a creature, or it might be, it's either flesh and blood or it's paranormal or a little bit of both, but it's always dogman. It's not something else. It's just always that. Whereas a werewolf, we all know the story of that. That's a human being who becomes cursed, and on a full moon, they turn into a wolf, So one is more factual, and then the other is just pure fiction. So, the werewolf is a nice, scary story, but it has no place whatsoever in cryptozoology.
So, but yeah, so it was, so according to like your knowledge, it was probably a dog man that I heard then. And I would even more likely lean to it being a wolf, a real wolf, except for we're told we don't have any wolves, and it was only one. And like, I would think a wolf would be with more, like a wolf pack, won't you? I mean, yeah. And so I did think that, maybe, but when I analyze how long the howl was, it kind of counts that out too. So I'm like, I don't think a wolf could howl that long. Like, it was like beyond Hollywood. Like, Hollywood would even, you know what I mean? Like, Hollywood would not make something that long. I mean, it was so incredible, and
Right.
it was so perfect. Like I was impressed. I was like, wow, that or that dog man has talent, because it was so perfect. Um, and so, and that, I'd heard coming from the east, which is where the Bigfoots come in from. See, our property faces, I want to say, okay, so this is east. So the east way is going to the Kayamishi River. So that's where the Bigfoots come from. They come from the river area, because our property is fenced on the other sides. So they're coming in the open side, is what I'm saying. And
How
that's
far are
also,
you? I'm sorry. How far
that's
are you
okay.
from the Kayamichis?
It's only a couple miles. It's not very far at all. Like if my friend goes driving, she drives over it.
So you're in
So
southeastern Oklahoma.
yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. And we're like in an area that wasn't lived on for like 8 years, and we don't know why. Like, we were trying to find out why no one lived here. Maybe we found out now. So, but yeah, no one had lived here for a very long time. And so it got overgrown, and of course it's very private. It's a perfect, like, if I was a Bigfoot, I would live here. It's just wonderful. It's like
Yeah.
secluded. There's a pond, there's a little river running to the pond. It's a perfect habitat, and the trees are tall, like 50-foot pine trees or more, I don't know. So it's a really nice habitat for them, and so I'm sure it's been very beneficial to them to be able to have such a private location but near human activity, because they like the dumpsters. I don't know if you know this, but like, they'll go to the dumpsters and like dig out the food that's in there.
Yep.
So yeah, so, and we have a bar that's right down the street, so I think that's probably why they just had it so good here, because they had a perfect climate. They had their water, they had their trees, they had their dumpster with all the food people were throwing away. So it was a perfect place for them. And then here, us two California girls come moving in, and the bar closed. And I have a little bit interesting side note on that. The bar closed for a while. They still have like private party, but they don't do, like regular everyday bar activity. And shortly after they closed the bar, they got tree breaks up there, which to me says you made somebody mad. So immediately, like a tree, they had like this little tree that was right outside the bar. It just like something came by and broke it like half and half, like half was down and half was up. And of course, people think, oh, it was just the wind. And I'm like, I'm watching these guys. I know it's not the wind, but okay, it's the wind. And then not too long after that, they came by and broke the other branch.
Let me throw something out there for
Yeah.
you. This might not have been out of anger. This might have been simply a sign that this is not a place for food anymore. So since the bar closed down and they stopped dumping food and stuff out back into their dumpsters and everything, that dumpster was no longer in use. So it was no longer a food source. So probably, this is what I'm thinking, as opposed to it getting angry about it, it probably broke that limb as a sign, no food here.
No.
So that they weren't wasting their time going up there, and that they could only, and I'm sure that they're well aware whenever there's a party going on up there and then stuff is getting dumped afterwards.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you then, where do you get your information as far as Bigfoot behavior? Because I'm
Field
really
studies.
interested.
Yeah,
I'm
field
really
studies.
interested in like what, where I can get that kind of information, because I would like to make sense of this. Like, I want to know why they do tree breaks. Why are they breaking, or why are they knocking on trees and all that? Like, I want to know all of it, like why they do things.
we all do. There's a lot of it that has to do with a lot of time in the field. I've spent a lot of time in the field. Like I told you, I got over 20 years experience. If you feel like doing it carefully,
Right. Yeah.
carefully do your research. I recommend doing it in groups.
Yeah.
You know, don't be a weirdo like me and go out in the woods all by yourself and end up in a 411 book or something like that.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to do that.
but you know, if you've got questions, you're a part of the best group on Facebook on the internet right now. You know I started started the group, and I'm a little bit, you know, one-sided on this whole argument as far as I think we got the best group that is out there.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of, you know, we call them experts. We call me an expert or what. No, we all know damn well there's no experts out there. But we will do everything we can to help you with the situation. And like you said, you know, um, and I assume that that invitation stays open, that, you know, if I want to come out there, I can come out there and do
Sure.
research. And I can tell you right now, my number one rule is I don't come out there and make things worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to make things worse for sure, but I've tested the grounds here too though. Like it got to the point where there was actually like Bigfoots in the trees calling to each other where I couldn't even take the trash out.
Yep.
So that's when I kind of went on, after the chicken incident happened and I'm outside and they're like calling to each other and I'm like, I can't take the trash out. I'm going to go back in the house. I just came to the conclusion, you know what? I'm going to yell at them and I'm going to tell them to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And most people say, that I'd been researching, would say, don't, you don't want to, confront them and make things worse, like you said. I wasn't violent towards them, but I was yelling at them, like, hey, you need to get out of here. This is human territory. You don't belong here. You have the whole forest. You could go anywhere. I can only be right here. Like I was just telling them the truth, we have nowhere else to go. You guys could go anywhere. So I was talking to them and yelling at them. And of course, part of the reason I'm yelling is because I need them to hear me far away. I don't want them coming closer, like
Right.
I want you to hear me 200 yards that way. That's fine. So anyway, so I went against some recommendations just because of my own personal space. Like I needed them to move farther away from me. So I was yelling to annoy them, like really make them not want to be here, because who wants to listen to a yelling woman? Nobody. Especially you're thinking they're half human. Of course, if they're half human, they ain't going to want to listen to any yelling lady.
I am not sitting here and listening to this. I'm really curious about something now since you brought that up.
Yeah.
So you got out there and you were firm with them. You yelled yelled at them. How? I guess my question is, how long was it after that they started gifting things to you?
Well, it was probably because the yelling happened a couple times. I was doing it like pretty much every day for a little while because I wanted to be firm, like let them know I'm not going to back down. This is really serious. You need to leave human territory. And so I was really firm with it. But I think because, in the beginning, I mean, this is going to sound kind of even more out there, but I even told them, like, hey, I'm not the most stable person. You never know what I'm going to do. Like a little bit of a scare tactic, like you never know what can happen. I don't want them to be able to predict me. So anyway, little psychological warfare. But so I think they actually do understand that because they took it serious where I was yelling at them and they still gifted me. So it's like, they kind of took it like, oh, she's just being crazy. She'll still take a gift, like, I think it's like almost like they're understanding like
that might have been them trying to make peace with you.
Yeah.
That might have been them saying, well, I'm sorry, here's this.
Yeah.
And I don't know that. I don't know that for a fact. I'm saying that as a possible hypothesis or something.
Got you. Yeah.
So that would be something I would be very guarded about. But as far as going out and talk, when I'm hiking through the woods, if I think there's something in the area, whatever it might be, I will talk to it. So I mean, I'm absolutely as bonkers as you are. So
yeah.
So I mean, I'll be out there, and if I think I'm in an area where there's Bigfoot or what I refer to as the other, Yeah, I'll start talking. I'll be like, I'm not out here to cause any problems. If you want me to
Uh-huh.
leave, just let me know, and it would be great if you would give me a sign that you're here or something like that. And
Yeah.
sometimes they will and sometimes they won't, you know. So, yeah, nothing wrong with that. Or maybe there is,
Yeah.
but there is wrong with both of us. So,
Yeah. So and I wasn't, I mean, they obviously, if they're intelligent enough to understand a human, then they know, like, I don't want them, to be mad at me. I just don't want to be living in fear. I don't want them
no,
right here hunting right next to my RV is all, So I think
right.
maybe you're right. Maybe they brought that mushroom to show me, like, okay, we saw that you respect our mushrooms. And so I'm going to show you, I do eat
Mm,
these mushrooms. Thank you. Thank you for not taking our mushrooms. Maybe,
yeah.
that's how I took it anyway. I took it like that maybe they're just saying, like, thank you for respecting us, because I
Hmm.
don't respect them. I don't respect them hunting right next to me, but I respect them enough that I'm not going to go take their berries. We have blackberries. We have blackberries on the property. We have raspberries outside. And I know they take them because one day I had been walking the dog and I saw raspberries and I was excited. I was like, oh, I'm going to have a raspberry. So I took one raspberry or two or whatever. And would you know it? Like within the next day or so, I go out there, every single raspberry was gone.
Oh, that's super
Every
common.
single one. Yeah, every single one. And I am like in shock looking at the bush. I mean, we're talking a huge bush. I mean, it's like probably like 30, 40 feet long. And I'm like, every single one is gone. So I connected the dots. I says, oh, someone was mad that I took that raspberry. And so after that is when I was telling people, like even the ones that had come here, like if they pick a blackberry, I say, no, don't touch those. Those are for the Bigfoot, Like I try to respect, yeah. I'm like, I don't want to make them mad and I don't want to take their food because I don't want them taking my food. But it's really unfortunate that that they do try to get chickens, because if they weren't trying to get chickens, I'd feel much more comfortable. Like I'd be more apt to be friendly than confrontational if they
Hmm.
weren't like trying to steal something from me. And I know there's different ones. I mean, it's not every single Bigfoot that's doing that. It's probably just like a bad one or a mischievous one, just like humans have.
Well, I
But
mean, if you're looking at these the way that we generally look at them, okay, so like a bear is what we consider to be an omnivore.
right.
So an omnivore eats both meat and vegetables and fruits and things like that, just like you described with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So there's something in biology that's known as conservation of energy. So any predator, even those that are what we call obligate carnivores, are going to go after the easiest target. So
Yeah.
if you're out there and you're a bear and you're wandering around through the woods and you're trying to figure out what the hell you're going to eat today, and you come up on a dead fish on a creek bed, you're going to eat as much of that as you possibly can because
Yeah.
it's an easy target. You're not going to expend any calories to take that out. That is why a lot of times people who are hiking in areas where they're not bear aware or mountain lion aware or whatever honestly end up being prey items because they are a much easier target than the deer.
Who is?
The human being is going to be a much easier target than the deer is.
Oh,
So, I
yeah.
mean,
Uh-huh.
that's what happens, especially if it's one that's starving. Generally, most animals know better than to mess with humans. They're like, no, I don't want to mess with it because those things are weird, they're cranky, and you don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And, so, I mean, dogs will scare away bears and mountain
Uh-huh.
lions too, so pretty easily. Um, but yeah, so as far as them taking out the chickens, they're looking for the easiest calories that they can get, and chickens unfortunately are completely stupid.
Yeah.
They'll stand in the rain and everything else. um, so that's an easy target. They're going to go in there and they're going to take out something that's easy to eat. That's like one notch up above eating out of a dumpster.
Yeah.
Especially since you got them all in a cage. They're like, oh, look, fish in a barrel, let's go shoot those.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
so but that well, I guess part of my question, and I think I kind of asked it earlier, and I'm sure I got you sidetracked, but they really refer to that area as a hunting ground? Because Bigfoot hunt kind of wherever. What we're generally finding is that they'll come into an area, they'll hunt for a season or so, and then they move on. And then what happens, okay, like the deer camp, they come in there, usually they thin down the herd a little bit. Now, they're not going to be super successful because they're chasing down deer and stuff like that. We believe they have techniques for doing it, but I'm getting off track.
Yeah.
So anyway, they come in, they hunt for a little bit, and then they move off to another area and they hunt that area, or they move off to an area and they start eating fish, or they do so. They're really good about conservation. They move around and then they come back to an area later on next season or whatever. So I'm kind of curious why they call that area a hunting ground.
Yes. Well, it's very easy to understand why, because there's a pond and every animal needs what?
Water. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. So basically, my friend, not knowing any of this, we're just California girls, she didn't know. And so she thought, she's buying this land. Oh my gosh, it's a cute little pond on it, not thinking that that's where the animals are all going to congregate to get water. And then, of course, when you have animals coming in to get water, you've got predators.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this area is it is a hunting ground. And the reason, too, is because you can find spears. In fact, when some of the people that came to help us came out, they found a Bigfoot spear, one they made, like a long stick. It's basically like probably 2 to 3 inch diameter stick that they've twisted on one side, and on the other side they sharpened it, so you can tell like it's been like chipped off and sharpened on one end, and then the other end has been twisted to like fit your fingers on it.
Do you still have that?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you get a chance, take a picture of that and send it to me if you don't care.
Sure. Yeah, it's real interesting. And so they found that. And then we also have the Bigfoot structures. So we have hunting blinds. Basically, what it is a place that a Bigfoot will take sticks from anywhere. They'll take sticks, they'll take grass, they'll take debris of any kind and place it like up against an existing tree. Mm-hmm. And then they hide behind that, so they can watch their prey without them being seen.
Yep.
And so, when you find like a tree and it's got a bunch of stuff piled up on there and it looks like someone put it there, but it wasn't a human, it's a hunting blind. Yeah. And so that's the reason this is considered a hunting area, because we're surrounded by hunting blinds. Like we have one section of the property is the pond plus the open area going to the Kiamichi River. And then the other side is fences, but with trees that had hunting blinds set up. In fact, when you really looked at it, this whole place was like a playground. It was built like a Bigfoot playground. Mm. Now, if people were more interested in this, like the Discovery Channel or something, they should have they should have taken a lot of interest in something like this, because it was like I tell you, it was like a playground, because they were miniature. They were little Bigfoot hunting blinds here. So like they were training their children here. No joking. And the trees, when you look at the trees are hanging, like all the tree limbs are hanging really low. Like they've been using them to swing on them, and like they've been laying in the trees and pulling them down to hunt whatever they're hunting. So the whole place was surrounded by that. We've pulled a lot of it down now because of the, creepiness. I mean, we don't even want to watch deer get hunted, honestly. I mean, me and my friend are kind of just peaceful people. We don't want to, we're not one that wants to actually watch a Bigfoot take down a deer.
No, yeah, that's not something you'd really want to watch in the first place.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it. And I'm not against hunting. I mean, I do want to learn how to hunt. I've never done it, but I would love to learn it, So I'm trying not to be too sensitive, but at the same time, I don't want to actually see it happen every night. If that's me, if
Right.
that can be helped, if that can be stopped, I don't want to see it every night. So we've been taking down those blinds and just tearing them down. And that's when one of the places I tore down some blinds, they drug in another tree. That big tree I was telling you about earlier, the tree trunk thing,
Right.
they drug it in from somewhere and propped it up right where I had taken down the other blinds. So we're kind of in a turf war, I think. I think they like this place. And that's why I've been yelling at them like, no, this is human territory. You have to leave.
Mhm.
So we're kind of in a standoff right now. But yeah, so we just want to live in peace. We don't want to watch them hunting the deer. So we are taking down the blinds a little by little. We're not doing anything too fast, just a little by little here and there. But yeah, I mean, from my perspective, when I look at this place, I was like, wow, this is like science. Like people should come here and actually do research here because you'd learn a lot. You could watch them. They build their blinds overnight. I don't watch it because I don't want an encounter. Like I don't want to have to see them and get a reaction, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I'm not ready. I'm almost ready to see one, but I'm not ready for like a face-to-face, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Through the window. If I see one through the window, I'm good with that.
We're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap this up. I definitely want you to stay in contact.
Sure.
Because if you have anything else that pops up or happens, I definitely want you to let me know on the group. We can always come back and we can always present that evidence and everything. But I really appreciate you coming on here tonight, Miss Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap this up. You hang around. I want to talk to you just a few minutes after the show, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Hey there, true believers. Thanks for dropping in again with us on another episode of Monstrous. We'll be back again next week. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook, on the group Monstrous. You can find us on YouTube, where we've got Monstrous, the podcast. We've got the field guide, which we're working on. We've got investigations. We've got encounters. And we are working on a membership program that is going to include something called Animology 101. And Animology 101, where I'm going to be doing is video by video, I'm going to be teaching you about research, investigations, evidence, what isn't evidence, and all these different things that go into cryptozoology, the paranormal, extraterrestrials, and all other kinds of anomalies. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out on YouTube, right where this show is going to pop up, and we'll be doing that pretty soon. Don't forget, you can find us on Spotify. You can follow us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram. We're all over the place. So remember, lock your doors, lock your windows, check in the closet, check under the bed, and make sure everything's safe, because monsters are real and you never know when they're going to pop back up.
Whispers in the twilight, darkness and a breeze, shadows move in silence, mystery in the trees. Secrets in the moonlight, echoes of the past, journeys through the unknown, questions that